You're listening to the Sacred Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Ray, aka the Sacred Mama. I'm a mindset and relationship coach, helping mothers nurture the relationship between themselves, their spouse, and their children. This is also sometimes inside of a co-parenting relationship. This podcast was designed specifically for mothers, stepmothers, and soon-to-be mothers to come together and truly support one another, to have the real, raw, honest, unfiltered, and soulful conversations about the realities of motherhood. My goal is for mothers to reclaim their self-worth and reclaim their self-identity while navigating motherhood. It's time you treated yourself as a priority because most of all, you matter. I believe that you can have the thriving family life. I believe that you can have the booming business. And I believe that you can have the passionate and abundant relationship. Most of all, I believe you can fully love yourself in the now without sacrifice. Throughout this podcast, you'll gain access to the minds of industry leaders and of course solo episodes by yours truly. So, let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Hi, this is going to be episode 17 of the Sacred Mama podcast. So I'm going to get started. So if you guys pop on this live, make sure you say hello. If you guys catch the replay on this, make sure you hashtag replay. So hello, welcome to another episode of the Sacred Mama podcast. Today, I'm extremely excited and honored to have Shalissa on the podcast. So she is not only a doula and a birth photographer, but she's also a dear friend of mine. So I'm going to give a moment to introduce her and then I'm going to let her say hello. So Shalissa is a doula, birth, and lifestyle photographer, and she's serving Moose Jaw, Swift Current, and everywhere in between for birth photography, and everywhere across Canada and the prairies beyond. So, hello, welcome, hi.
Hey, first things first for everybody, my child will be in and out of this. So, thank you for having me. This is my first ever podcast, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Bye. I wanted to bring you on the podcast for a few reasons, simply because everybody, this was my incredible birth photographer. So for those of you that have seen the photos that have come out, this is Shalissa. You can put a face to the name. But I also wanted to have you on the podcast because the services that you provide, I believe, are extremely important. And I also feel at times there isn't enough information. He's good. He's good.
Come here, buddy.
And so but before we actually really dive into the questions that I have surrounding doula work and photography, you look cool, dude. I really want to ask you, there's this one question that I ask everyone is like, what is your definition of motherhood?
Well, definitely it's so different for everybody, but motherhood is just like this circle of ongoing chaos that just goes on and on and on. But for some reason, for mothers, it's like the greatest blessing on earth. Like it's this thing, you know, you have nightmares and like dreams that it just reoccurs and you wake up and it's the same day every day, kind of like quarantine right now. But you wake up and everything's the same all the time, over and over again. And you think that it would get like tiring. And of course, some days it does, but like, it's still the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. I say as he's like crawling on my head. That's my definition of motherhood. I don't know why you don't get sick of it. And it's just like something you can't give up on it. It's the only thing that has like grounded me to not give up on. Yeah. And I think that's such a crazy, surreal experience.
I love his excitement.
He's so excited about everything.
He's like, cool, I got glasses. Cool, I'm sitting on my mom. I'm doing my thing. Let's see my reflection in the glasses.
Yeah. Where's Brinley?
Where is she? Where's Brinley?
Go see Bryn. Go show her your cool shades.
Ooh.
Maybe she has a game for you. Go see your games.
Guys, this is like the straight up definition of motherhood on this podcast. Like balancing business and babies at the same time.
If you're waiting for this to end and for it to like not be like this, it's not going to. This is my life.
And so I would really love for you, Shalissa, to share a little bit of your background and really why you dove into not only, becoming a doula, but also then diving into photography and birth photography and all those things. So I'd really love for you to share your perspective and your outlook on why you did so. And then we can kind kind of continue on the conversation.
Okay, so I've been a mom for almost 7 years. I have 3 children. They're all amazing. They're like the greatest people on earth. But it didn't start that way. Like when I first became a mom, I shouldn't put this all on my firstborn, but it really was. Like I had a very super traumatic birth with her. She was like a colicky baby. She was not, it just wasn't, I was 19, I had her and I had no idea what was going on. And so I didn't breastfeed. I didn't do any of the stuff that I'm like all for these days. And so, it was like a really ongoing traumatic experience for me, not only just the birth, but just everything that came with it. Shortly after that, I separated my husband at the time. And like, I think a lot of that had to do with postpartum depression. And it was like, I had no idea where any of this came from. And so after that, of course, I dove into, I guess just the logistics behind birth and we got a door stopper. The logistics behind birth and postpartum especially, and like why a lot of the things happened that they did. And I was just intrigued. And so
Mama.
Birth has always kind of been,
Mama.
Yeah, hi. Can you say hey? And then Mommy's got to tell some stories. Birth has always been like this taboo thing in my life. Like not for me specifically, but just for the people in my life. Yeah. And so I was like, I need to go and do something about this. I need to like figure out, there's so much more behind even just like hormones going through your body when you're pregnant and the hormones in birth and the hormones in postpartum. That alone can shift your life so dramatically. And so, here's a pen. For those of you just listening to the podcast, my child is forever in my space. Here, take these and go color. So I was looking up birth support because I hadn't, this is postpartum, sorry. Once I kind of finally got a hold of the reins and I was like, how could this change? How could this be better the next time around? How could this not go the way that it just did? And so I looked a lot into midwives, just the more holistic approach and not just OBs and doctors and physicians and stuff. And then I came across doulas, which I really hadn't known a lot about. And then the more that I dove into that, I was like, yeah, this is like something that I wish I would have had so badly. And the more that I dove into that, I was like, I think like I would be the perfect person to do this. I would, like, I know how bad it can get. And I think that's an easy place to like start from. And I always picture like the plant. It's like where I can put my seed and then grow from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just like, I don't know, it was one of those things that just snapped and I was like, this is what I have to do. So I Googled as much as possible and tried to figure out any sort of organization that I could join. And I'm like, I wish that I could be a part of this DONA International. And so I lived on Google for like a month, just trying to figure out like, how can I do this? Are they just self-proclaimed or like, what do I need to do? And so eventually in April of 2017, I went to Calgary, which at the time I lived about 7 hours away from there. I was just like, I'm doing this. And I went and did my workshop and did my training there. Did I say 2017?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. 2017. And since then, I don't know, it's just always kind of been a part of my life. And I was already at the time doing photography. And so I was like trying to figure out how I could link these together. And like I said too before, there was no real inspiration behind me deciding to be a photographer or a birth photographer, but boy, Harvey. There's no inspiration behind me being a birth photographer. I was just like, I'm so obsessed with birth. I love this work. I'm just going to join them together. And that was that. I haven't looked back since.
It all makes sense. It's your personal journey, right? So it's how your journey evolved and how you brought in photography and also doula work into the work that you do right now. And so this actually leads really beautifully into the next question I had for you, which really was about the photography that you've captured throughout motherhood. And personally, what do you feel is like the most beautiful work that you have captured so far regarding motherhood?
Definitely birth.
Yeah. Can you explain like birth photography a little bit more? Because you and I did a live. So if you guys aren't following Shalissa, all of her links will be at the bottom. Her and I actually did like a live together where we actually really discussed my experience and her experience during my birth photography. But I would really love for you just to kind of give a little bit of an explanation of like birth photography and what people can kind of expect with that so they understand what you mean by capturing birth photography.
So basically we set up a consultation whether we're going to work together or not, and that kind of decides or deciphers ultimately whether we are going to work together or not, based on our vibe together and our connection or lack thereof, and that kind of like sets the tone for how comfortable we're going to be together.
Mama,
I know, I love you. I wish you would go away though. Say this all the time. So thank you. I think you're better at multitasking than I am.
Well, I think your spouse isn't home though, is he?
Yeah. He's working.
Yeah. So mine is. So he's got the other ones and the other one's down for a nap.
Oh, I'm getting waved too, so this could be it. Bye, baby. Bye. See ya. I love you. Go away. So we have that consultation and we discuss the ins and outs of what you're comfortable with and what you want captured and what you're not comfortable having captured. So once that happens, I get a better idea of what I'm going to be doing when I am there. And of course, every birth is different. So I don't specifically know, I can't envision your birth for you, but I know I can at least envision where I'm going to be and how I can hold space for you in that moment.
I guess for like a really good example too, so that people understand, I can explain a little bit about mine so that they understand. Like it was like a no holds bar for me. I was like, you can do whatever you want. Like take all the pictures. I wanted pictures of absolutely everything. I wanted the whole experience captured because it is truly an experience where you're not, I feel as a mom, you're not fully present. And therefore, having someone there who is able to capture all of these beautiful moments that I am technically not there for is absolutely incredible. And so I had Shalissa come in for the beginning of my when I first went into labor. I was actually induced. So she was there at the beginning. She watched us walk around. She then was also, she had left and come back, and she was there for the actual like birth of my son. And so she captured me birthing my son into the world, my husband having the opportunity to cut his cord, holding him for the first time, the doctor seeing him, me being worked on, everything was captured. And she was like Silent Sam. Like, I want to say she was like, you didn't even know that she was there. Like, you knew she was there, but she didn't interrupt. She wasn't in the way, and it was beautiful. And she was supportive regarding the things that I wasn't actually present for. So the conversation can run very deep when it comes to like what happens through birth photography. But for some people to know, like, I was very open that if I was hiring someone to capture my birth photography, I wanted it all to be captured, not just portions. So, but that was my personal take on birth photography.
So not everything is going to be like that, but yeah, definitely if you're not wanting, well, for example, if you want me to stand out your head and just document you capturing like the first time you're holding your baby and the process with no nudity, no anything, then I'm cool with that. Like, it's your story, I'm down for whatever. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is like, it kind of ties into doula also, but like, you envision your birth, you have your birth plan, and this is exactly like how you want your birth to be pictured is how I'm going to get it for you.
So this actually ties beautifully because we're talking about doula work, and I'm not sure if everybody really knows what a doula is. I feel like the word can be kind of tossed around a lot, or people say, oh, I had a doula, and they're like, oh, that's great, and don't actually understand the role of a doula. So I'd really love for you to just give a little bit of a description of that so that people actually know what that is as we kind of continue on with the conversation too.
Yeah. So a doula is a trained professional that helps you emotionally, supports you emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, however you're needing. And that can be prenatal, like prior to having a baby, just to help you conduct a birth plan, teach you breathing techniques, teach you comfort measures. And then throughout, I shouldn't say and then, it's either or all.
Yeah.
Through birth to help you with those positioning, to help you breathe, to help you just to hold space for you while you're not able to make decisions on your own, someone who can advocate for you. And also, if you have a partner there, can teach your partner how to provide comfort for you so that you are able to have that intimate connection with your partner instead of just with we're not totally strangers, but we are still not as intimate, obviously, as you and your partner. And then also in postpartum, one of the big things is like, why would I hire a doula when my partner can be that person for me? Yes, your partner can be the hands-on and can be the person who knows you, but it also comes down to somebody who knows birth, someone who can provide the information and the resources and the tools for you as well. And I can be that link to teaching your partner that too, but it does come down to having someone who can advocate for you and who can provide those resources for you whenever you need them. Did I say resources? Resources.
Those resources, that'd be good too.
I'm thinking about chocolate, guys.
And honestly, even regarding, like, that was the one thing that I wish that I would have also had throughout as additional support for me. Like, you acted as an incredible, like, not only we created a very great friendship along the way as well. So I feel like we had like a different relationship versus just like photographer. That's because that was something that was built and formulated. So I felt like I also had additional support as like a friend from you as well there. But I also, for my husband, like my husband has said, he doesn't know. He's like, I see what's happening and I see that you're giving birth to our children, but I don't actually understand the pain or what is actually happening to you physically. Like he's like, I can visually see things, but I can't actually picture what it actually feels like. And so he's like, to have somebody there to actually explain certain things or to not make jokes like my husband makes jokes all the time, is also just really beneficial. Like there's a lot of benefits through doula work. And I wish I also had a doula at the time. But I really wanted individuals to know what that looks like. And also because like you had mentioned beautifully actually on our conversation is like to have a doula doesn't necessarily just mean that you're having a home birth. And I feel like there's a lot of confusion around that as well, where there's some people who are like, you have a doula, but you're going to the hospital. Yeah. I've literally had a friend was asked that and she's like, why can't I have a doula if I'm going to the hospital? Like where did that disconnect
still get the support,
happen?
Right?
Yeah. So I think it's just really important to let people know that you can still have support whichever way you choose. And it doesn't have to be like boxed into like, this is the only way you can have a doula. This is the only way you can have photography. Because you even mentioned before that a lot of people had questioned if it was like almost like very hippie-ish to do like birth photography. And that people had asked if it was like, for example, if women were really clarify that question. However, so prior to becoming a doula, and I believe you mentioned a little bit of this before regarding like supports that you wanted previously obviously after having like Brinley and you wish that things were a little bit different, what is one big thing that you wish you knew when you were going to be giving birth to Brinley?
I can answer that question if you can actually see me. Oh no, she's gone. Well, I can answer that question. It does still say live on Facebook. Let's see if she joins. One of the big things that there you are. You're back. Hey.
I actually have no idea what just happened there, because then you dropped out and then I dropped out. Hey, we're back.
It did, like, I was still in it the whole time and it did still say live, so it should still be good.
Weird. Okay, cool. Well, where did you hear last?
I heard you ask the question and I'm about to answer it.
then let's rock.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest thing was in regards to postpartum. I had no idea what to expect. Like, I had no idea about the bleeding. Like, I knew you would bleed a little bit, but to get down to the nitty gritty is like clots coming out the size they do was fucking scary.
100%.
Like, and so that kind of thing, and the hormones, and just thinking like there's something wrong with me. Like, I also had postpartum depression, so I did have really scary thoughts, but even the thoughts that were prior to that, before I even realized there was something wrong, was like, I would just stare at my baby and think, why the fuck are you still crying? Like, I could just put this baby down and walk away and just not care. Like, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. I'm going to leave this house. And that was a really scary thing for me to think back on now, how unstable I was, and just like, I don't know, educating myself and knowing the resources that were out there. If I had have known about them, would have been so different. Pretty much everything postpartum, honestly. And then also knowing that I actually had a voice when it came to birth. I didn't have to have forceps. I didn't have to have an episiotomy. Like, I don't know. There's so many things from my first birth that if I would have known, I could have changed the outcome. And I think if I would have had a doula, or even just like, the reason I say doula is because usually you can have two support people. And if that's your mom and your partner, make sure your mom is educated and isn't just like, well, I did this at my birth. And that's why I think a doula is a very non-judgment, safe person who can be there for you.
Yep.
So if I would have had, I loved my mom being there, but if I would have had a doula, I think it would have been a lot different, because she would have advocated for me when I was not able to. And another thing I wish I would have known, I know you said one, but
you're good.
Breastfeeding. Like, I had no idea about breastfeeding. I honestly could have breastfed my first, and it would have been so beneficial, but I just didn't know. Like, I tried to latch her at the hospital and she wouldn't immediately, just like, nope. And I'm like, nope, gonna be too frustrating. I can't do this. But if I would have just given myself the time and had patience with me and had patience with my daughter, it would have been so much, like, I don't know, it would have been a lot better, because we didn't initially have that huge bonding experience. Now, definitely, but for the first year, just because I had so much going on and I was so unstable, and I don't know, I just think I definitely could have been a better mom. And that's not to say that I wasn't that I was a bad one. It's just, it could have been so much better, right? If I had the resources.
No, I agree with you completely. When I had Elena, I had this mentality that I just knew it all, or that I didn't need the additional support. And there was almost like I was naive to it all, or there was also some ego in there that, like, I had this idea that I wasn't going to be like all these other women who had suffered with postpartum, or I wasn't going to tear, or things were going to go beautifully and just exactly how I pictured. And I think that was also like a safety mechanism that a lot of moms do to keep themselves like safe and secure in their thoughts. And with Elena, for example, you know, when you were talking about like moms making sure that they were educated, my mom knew a lot of from what had happened in her birth. and the experience that she had. And so her experience was, she hemorrhaged really bad, and it was extremely unfortunate. And there was a lot of other complications that happened, and little did we know that it was actually something that was going to be passed down that I did not know of. So with my daughter, it was traumatic. There was blood everywhere. I had lost like 2.5 liters of blood. It was very extremely painful when it came to like episiotomies and all the things that they're kind of like pushing on you when you don't know and you're not educated enough. And I still remember my mom in the background, like looking as though she was going to she was so scared, but she was also going to like almost pass out because of fear. Like this not only happened to her, but then now had happened to her daughter. And then with the birth of my son, through everything that happened with my daughter, I really prepared myself. Like I didn't have a latch with my daughter. She wouldn't latch. I wasn't able to breastfeed. I didn't know how to. I was overwhelmed. There were so many hormones, all the things happening, and I didn't have the additional support. I thought I had to do it alone. And then with my son, I had set up to the point where I was like, I'm not doing this alone. This is not happening again. I don't want to scream and yell at my baby. I don't want to be impatient. And I said to my husband, like, I need this support. I need to do things this way. And even with my son, I still ended up hemorrhaging. I still had the same problem. You know, doctors told me that it probably isn't a good idea for me to have more children due to that problem. And it becomes a lot, but like education is so important when it comes to bringing life into this world. Like there's so much that encapsulates everything, but like education and support is like a non-negotiable.
I think that your mom, like, definitely her emotions should be validated, just because like that is a super scary situation. Yeah. And she saw what happened to you and was like, oh my gosh, this happened to me, and this is the outcome that happened. And it was a lot of fear.
100%.
So having that, looking at her and seeing that was scary. Not only you knew what was happening was scary already, but then seeing someone else there that's not sure what the outcome is going to be is with their face. Obviously, yes. They're going to show that, and that's even scarier. Whereas I think with a doula, they don't have that prior experience with you. They have a million different experiences, and they're able to be like, okay, well, this is what's going on, and can educate you on that, but also hold space for you, like a very safe space for you to know, regardless of what happens, like these are the options that you have, and also like it's going to be okay. They're not stuck in that fear. They're able to set their experiences or other clients' experiences aside and just focus on what's going on here.
Well, and when it happened, I remember being so scared that it was going to happen a second time because it was very unknown and there was no actual reason or even reasoning now as to why this somehow happens after I give birth to my children. It's just something that does. And the scary thought of this, though, is that if this was to happen, for example, 50 years ago, I most likely wouldn't be here today. And so having like the medical knowledge that there is now and what they do know now to help you through that is incredible. But I can definitely tell you it's scary. Like it was extremely scary, and it wasn't as scary with my son. I felt much more secure and much more safe, but with my daughter, it was frightening. And this time I wouldn't even necessarily say prepared, but like knew that there was a potential possibility of this happening. And so did my doctors. Like this time I had not only informed myself, but I had doctors who were informed. Everything was prepared. There was like a system in place. And so like this knowledge and the support, we keep coming back to kind of like that same discussion is just it's so important. And I want to say thank you for sharing like a part of your story and your struggle from what you're going through, because this is also like I created this podcast and this platform for us to have these conversations where it came to like moms being open and honest about their struggle with postpartum depression, with postpartum anxiety, and that this was a safe place for moms to listen in and know that they were not alone, because ultimately you're not alone. And the struggle doesn't have to just remain this one spot, and you can actually talk about it. No matter if somebody tells you not to talk about it, which people told me not to talk about it, talk about it. Like, don't allow people to tell you not to. But But I really want to, before we wrap everything up, there's actually something that you do that you recently got, I want to say certified for, but I'm not sure if it's a certification regarding Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep.
Yes.
And this is much, we've talked about a lot of deep topics in here, but this is also like, I feel like this takes a different. Yeah, okay, it is. I wasn't sure, so I wanted to clarify. But I would love for you to explain what that is, because I know that that is also support that is needed in this world. And yeah, I'm just going to let you kind of take the lead on that one.
Okay. So Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is an organization that gathers photographers that will do volunteer work for families that are suffering the loss of babies. They come in when necessary and capture those photos in a very heirloom remembrance type way. And then we provide those images for the families so that it kind of, it provides healing. It's not in a way that is scary and shocking. It's something that you can have that can help you with the process of healing and deal with the grief in a proper way. And so, yeah, I am officially certified to do that. I would like to say I would go anywhere. Obviously, it depends on timing and what the exact situation is for these families, but most definitely I do that first with Current and Moose Jaw.
I wanted to ensure that we talked about this, as this is something that I feel is also not talked about, and that it also is a service that people also don't know that is available. I guess it's not something people love to talk about. It's not something they want to talk about, but
yeah. And that's something that it's like hard for me, because I want to be able to provide these healing images for the families, but I also can't advertise that. Like, it's not a hey.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, I don't know, you can't, it's hard to talk about. And I think that's a huge stigma around it, but you can't advertise something like that, because a lot of the cases, nobody knows that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
And so it's just nice to be able to put my name out there and throw it out into the wind, and hopefully somebody catches it that needs to hear it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm currently in the process of just reaching out to the hospitals and making sure that they are aware that I provide this for Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and so that I can be called on whatever terms, time, condition, whatever it is, just to come in and do that for them.
So thank you for sharing that piece. I know that this isn't something we want, anyone to have to utilize, except it's there. So individuals, I feel, need to still know that it's there, so that, like you said, they can let people know if that ever is a situation that occurs in their life. And so before we wrap it all up, is there any, message that is on your heart that you would love to share with the moms who are tuning in or will be tuning in, that you would love to share with them?
Just like, you are so much more capable than you think that you are. You think that you have to do this all alone. And right now, currently, given everything that's going on, just due to the COVID-19 situation and everything in that nature, there's so many ways for you. You just need a little bit of shove. And I'm here to be that person to shove you. And I'm sure you are also.
Yes.
There are resources for you. You are totally capable of reaching out and doing this one small little lump if you need to, if you are feeling alone, if you are feeling like the weight of motherhood is so much right now, because some of us are going from having our kids at school, having just like a lot more support in place than we are right now. And I think especially now more than ever, it's important to know that there are resources out there for you, even in this situation.
Yes, I agree. So I want to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast and having this conversation. For those who are tuning in, Moose Jaw, Swift Current, surrounding areas, make sure you go and follow Shalissa. Reach out to her if you're needing any of her services. She has done birth photography for me, family photography. She's done business photography. Enough. She's incredible. She also did mother-daughter photos for me and my mom, which turned out absolutely incredible. So if you're looking for someone to capture like beautiful moments in your life, like this is ya girl. But before we go, can you please share your socials? They'll also be in the show links for the podcast here and in Facebook. But please let them know how they can get in contact with you and be in your vibe.
Yeah, so my business is called 10th and Raglan Photo Co. You can find that on Facebook, exactly. Shalissa, owner of 10th and Raglan Photo Co. Instagram is 10thandraglanphoto.co. Same with, Twitter, Pinterest, everything is all the same. And my website is www.10thandraglan.co. So it's very easy.
So make sure you guys go give her a follow. When you do, make sure you let her know how you found her, whether you found her through the community, whether you found her through this podcast. Let her know so she knows where you were tuning in from or something that you were listening to. But other than that, thank you so much, Shalissa, for being here again today. Thank you to those who tuned in live. Thank you to those who are listening to this on the podcast. And I will see you guys all in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Sacred Mama Podcast. It warms my heart to truly bring forth such beautiful conversations that were created for you to thrive and rise throughout motherhood. Because Mama, this is not a journey we're meant to walk alone. Don't forget to subscribe and share, a review, and you can find more information and connect with me via Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Cara Ray and also my free community called The Sacred Mama Co. You'll also be able to find me on Instagram as Cara Ray and also The Sacred Mama. It all truly does start with you. And so thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys all in the next episode.